Hi, this is Alan Bagby. Welcome to my Substack. What about God's sovereignty? Classical versus the open view. This post is a continuation of last weekend's post, Why I Am an Open Theist. In my last post, we pulled back the curtain of how Greek philosophy, specifically the unmoved mover of Plato and Aristotle, snuck into the theology under the radar cloaked in Augustinianism. We looked at how this static view of God often turns the vibrant, responsive relationship evident in the Bible into the script for a movie recorded on a DVD. But for many of my Reformed friends, this is where the red flags go up. The immediate fear is that if we abandon the idea that God meticulously controls every falling leaf and every human failure, we are somehow dethroning God. Many Bible-believing Christians have been conditioned to believe that sovereignty is a zero-sum game. Either God has total microscopic control, or he is a helpless bystander. The open view sees this as a false choice. We don't have to choose between a puppet master and a dethroned, powerless God. Open theism offers a more rational way, a model of sovereignty that isn't just more biblical, but is actually more impressive. It's the difference between a film director who has actors follow a script and solidifies those lines forever, and a grand master who wins the game no matter what move the opponent makes. Let's unshackle God's omnipotence from the reformers and into what I believe is a more biblical picture, where God is free. For the staunchly reformed, sovereignty is often synonymous with meticulous providence. As the late R.C. Sproul famously put it, if there is one maverick molecule in all the universe, then God is not God. While that sounds incredibly pious and secure, it creates a control trap. If God must control the exact trajectory of every molecule to be considered truly sovereign, then his power is actually quite fragile. It's a sovereignty that cannot handle even a tiny bit of independent will without collapsing. Open theism proposes that God is so powerful, so omnicompetent, that he can grant his creatures genuine freedom and still be absolutely certain of his final victory. The open view hasn't taken God off the throne. It simply recognizes that God is a king who is confident enough to let his subjects make real choices. It takes a greater God to manage a world of free agents than it does to hit the play button and watch his pre-recorded, predetermined movie. It's the difference between going outside and experiencing life or sitting on your couch and watching the screen. The Reformed model functions like a movie director. John Piper once wrote, God not only sees the future, but he sees it because he planned it, and he planned it because he's God. In this view, the future is just a memory of what God decided to do before time began. And we are just actors reciting our lines, puppets dancing on a string. If the script is already written, then our choices are essentially fiction. Open theism, however, views God's sovereignty as if God were a grand master chess player. A grand master doesn't need to know exactly which move you will make to know that he will win. He knows every possible move you could make and leaves it up to you to make it, and has a brilliant response ready for every single one of your moves. He is so good at the game that no matter how much freedom you have, the checkmate of his ultimate will is guaranteed. This preserves human responsibility without sacrificing divine victory. The closed view is the sovereignty of a technician who never has any work to do on the perfect clockwork machine. The open view is the sovereignty of a genius, actively presiding over his ongoing living creation as he shapes the clay for his ultimate purpose. I've often heard Jeremiah 18:1 through 10 used as a gotcha verse to prove that God does whatever he wants regardless of human response. But if you actually read the text without reformed lenses on, the message is the exact opposite. The potter is working with the clay in real time. God explicitly says, "If that nation turns from its evil, then I will relent." The potter changes his plan because of the clay's condition. He is responsive, not rigid. Reformed theology often treats the clay as if it has no properties, no will of its own, but the biblical metaphor depicts a potter so skilled that he can take marred clay, our failures and sins, and reshape it into a new vessel. This is a far more rational view of the Bible's many if-then promises and prophecies. God isn't a factory machine stamping out identical pots. He is an artist, engaging with the material as it changes in his hands and making unique creatures continually. What about evil in the Reformed view of God? Is God the author of evil or the Redeemer? Perhaps the most painful part of Reformed sovereignty is the compatibilist view of tragedy. The Westminster Confession states that God freely and unchangeably ordained whatsoever comes to pass. Logically, this seems that every act of evil, every cancer diagnosis, every horrific accident was specifically scripted for God's greater glory. This is often where the soul breaks. In my view, the open view holds that God is the redeemer of evil, not its author. He did not will the tragedy, but because he is sovereign, he is never caught off guard by it. He is here, ready to take our broken moves in a fallen world and weave them into a masterpiece of redemption that he didn't originally predetermine, but is fully capable of perfecting. It is much more biblical to see God as the one who works all things together for good, Romans 8:28, rather than the one who decreed evil so that good might come. Ultimately, we face two versions of control. One is a static, frozen world where your choices are an illusion, and God is the cosmic architect of both murder and mercy. The other is a dynamic, living world where your choices are real, your prayers actually matter, and God is the living king leading a kingdom through the open future. Open theism doesn't propose a weak God. It proposes a God who is bold enough to take risk and brilliant enough to ultimately win. He isn't a computer running a program. He is the Father who walks with us through the unknown. He doesn't need to pull every string to keep the universe from unraveling because he is the glue that holds it all together, even when we push back. In summary, open theism moves us away from the fear of the maverick molecule and toward a confidence in God's omnicompetence. We're free from the movie director and live life with the Grand Master. We've escaped the rigid robot factory for the potter's will and the author of evil for the great Redeemer. This model is profoundly more appealing because it resolves the metaphysical mess and the crushing cognitive dissonance of compatibilism. For the secular person, it presents a God who isn't a tyrant responsible for every atrocity, but a loving creator who calls us into a real partnership to fight real evil. For a Christian who has come to doubt Reformed theology, the open view offers a way to believe in God without having to believe that God blueprinted everyone's life before time began and the foundations of the world. It makes sense of our prayers, our struggles, and our hopes. We cannot predict 100% accuracy what tomorrow holds in a world of free will creatures, but we know the one who is with us and ready to make the next move with us in this world. The song, which I wrote, The Story of My Life, includes a line that sums up my self-discovery. My prayers already knew what my mind had to find. I've always been an open theist in my actions. I didn't know in my mind that I was an open theist. It was just a vague term on the periphery of Christian culture. Thank you for listening to my Substack. Please subscribe for posts like this. I plan to continue this series on open theism. Remember, Proverbs 25.
The script was written and the ink was dry. A cosmic movie beneath a frozen sky. But now the shadows start to fade away. I'm waking up to a brand new day. The wise told me God was silent like a stone, unmoved and far away on a distant throne. But I see a living God in the stories of old, a story waiting for the truth to be told. My choices are not an iron rail and forever cast. My future is not settled as I heard in the past. God listens to my heart, He's open to my plea. He writes the story of my life along with me. The master player knows every move I make. He can redeem every turn, every path I take. He's not a controller, I'm not a puppet on a string. He's king of his kingdom, and to him my songs I sing. My choices are not an iron die forever cast. My future is not settled as I heard in the past. God listens to my heart, He responds to my plea. He writes the story of my life along with me. I'm breaking the curse the philosophers made, stepping out of the cold and away from the charade. I'm finding that God truly feels our sorrow and pain. He relents in the storm and walks with us in the rain. In a world that is open, in a love that is bold, life is not a script, the end has not been told. My prayers already knew what my mind had to find, that the God of the heavens has not left us behind.